Good morning and good afternoon to all of our viewers. Welcome to the webinar for prospective applicants to the U.S. National Academy of Medicine's Healthy Longevity Catalyst Awards. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Michelle Toplitz, and I am a program officer at the National Academy of Medicine. I manage the Healthy Longevity Global Competition. Before we jump in, I just have a couple of housekeeping items. First, today's webinar will be recorded and posted on the NAM website for future reference. Second, please note that the question and answer or the Q&A function is available during this webinar, and we welcome you to submit questions. However, please note that we won't be responding to questions live. We'll review and post answers to questions on our FAQ page. Alternatively, you may submit questions at any time during the application period to catalystawards@nas.edu. Next slide, please. So our agenda for the next hour is divided into two parts. In part one, I'll speak about the Healthy Longevity Global Competition and the NAM's US-based Catalyst Awards, which are the focus of today's webinar. I'll give you a quick update from our inaugural round in 2020, and then share some key information about the upcoming round two. And then next, in part two, we'll hear from 3 Catalyst Award winners from round one. We hope the conversation will give you a sense of the diverse array of projects we've supported thus far, how easy it is to apply, and how unique competition aims to foster breakthrough innovations in healthy longevity. Next slide. The Healthy Longevity Global Competition is a multi-year, multi-million-dollar international competition. The goal is to catalyze transformative ideas and breakthrough innovations to improve people's physical, mental, and social health and well-being as they age. The global competition includes 3 phases of awards and prizes. We're currently in the first phase, the Catalyst phase, and today's webinar is about the Catalyst Awards, which are intended to stimulate bold, innovative ideas. Catalyst awardees receive a cash prize of $50,000 each, which is intended as seed money to help advance their ideas. They also receive travel expenses to attend an annual Innovator Summit. Various Catalyst Award competitions are being administered around the world, but the focus of today's webinar is the NAM's US-based Catalyst Award competition. The second phase of the larger global competition is the accelerator phase, during which Catalyst awardees will have the opportunity to compete for additional substantive funding by demonstrating proof of concept or significant advancement of their ideas. The accelerator awards range from $300,000 to $1 million or more. And finally, in the third and final phase of the global competition, the NAM will issue 1 or more grand prizes for a breakthrough innovation in healthy longevity. The grand prize or prizes will be open to the public and worth up to $5 million. So awardees from each phase are supported in advancing their ideas and projects, and they're well positioned to compete in the next phase of the competition. Next slide, please. In the first round of the Healthy Longevity Catalyst Awards, the NAM and its global collaborators received over 1,500 applications. Collectively, we issued 154 Catalyst Awards worldwide, which were worth more than $7.7 million. The NAM specifically issued 21 US-based awards for a diverse set of innovative ideas, ranging from basic science and clinical medicine to social science and public health, computer science, and health technology. And you can check out all of the NAM and the international winners and their projects on our website, healthylongevitychallenge.org. So now we're gearing up for round 2 of the US-based Catalyst Awards in early 2021. The application period is Monday, January 25th through Monday, March 8th, and will be open for 6 weeks. The NAM will issue up to 24 Catalyst Awards in 2021, with plans to announce the winners in late summer or early fall of this year. Next slide, please. So why apply for an NAM Catalyst Award? And how is this different from a traditional grant submission? The process is very quick and easy. First, you'll be asked to complete a brief eligibility form, and I'll talk more about eligibility shortly. Second, you'll be asked to complete a very straightforward application form that asks for basic information about the innovators, or the research team, and the proposed idea. And third, the main element of the submission is a 2-page narrative. We provide very specific structure for the narrative that's broken down into 2 sections. Section 1 is where you'll explain your innovative idea and how it could be transformative. And section 2 is where you'll explain how you would implement and test your innovative idea. So that's it, a 2-page application. Now, I mentioned eligibility. The criteria are quite broad. The NAM Catalyst Awards are open to any person or team from any discipline or background. Applicants do not need to be affiliated with an organization or an institution. Applicants can submit as independent individuals or teams, or they can submit on behalf of an institution. Institutions themselves must be US-based, and any type of institution or organization is okay, with some restrictions on for-profit companies. For each application, we require you to name one principal investigator, and that person must reside in the US. Please visit our application guidelines for all of the details and information on eligibility, and we do encourage you to submit questions if anything is unclear. Next slide. So what exactly is the NAM looking for in these applications? We're seeking bold, novel, potentially transformative ideas that could lead to dramatic breakthroughs in health and well-being as people age, particularly ideas that are measurable and can be implemented in an equitable way. The NAM is very interested in innovative approaches that challenge existing paradigms and new methods or concepts that address existing problems or issues. We're even looking for high-risk, high-reward ideas, projects that, if they worked, could dramatically change the landscape of healthy longevity. We very much welcome interdisciplinary ideas as well. And these ideas can actually pertain to any stage of life. They don't need to be focused on older adults necessarily, provided that there's a clear connection to health as people age. Please note that the NAM does not seek to fund existing programs or slight variations thereof, initiatives that are primarily public awareness campaigns, or products that are already on the market. So if you're still on the fence about whether to apply, here are the benefits of applying and for Catalyst Awardees. Our application process is quick and easy. The major piece is a 2-page narrative. Catalyst Awardees receive $50,000 and travel costs to attend an annual International Innovator Summit. Awardees are automatically part of a global network of innovators, and their winning ideas are shared publicly to enhance the field of healthy longevity. Awardees will have opportunities to engage with industry leaders, academic experts, fellow innovators, and entrepreneurs at the Innovator Summit. And awardees will have access to significant additional funding opportunities in the accelerator and grand prize phases of the global competition. So I hope I've convinced all of you to submit an application. And now, as I promised, we're going to hear from 3 Catalyst Awardees from round 1. Here are our featured awardees, who will be on video momentarily. I'll let each of them introduce themselves further, and speak to their particular projects. You can also find their bios and abstracts on our event page. So to kick it off today, we have with us Carrie Neiman from the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Vineeth Raghu from Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School, and Nikhil Shah from Nephrodite and the University of Texas, Austin. Very warm welcome to all 3 of you, and thank you so much again for being with us today. Now we have a series of questions and topics for discussion, and I'll be sure to rotate who I ask to speak first. Generally, I just ask that you keep your responses relatively brief so that we can hear from everyone and so that we can get through a number of questions before the end of our session. That said, we do have 50 minutes. So I think we'll be able to cover a lot of ground. So to start off, and we're going to start with Carrie first on this one. If you could please introduce yourselves and tell viewers a bit about your background.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, so my name's Carrie Neiman. I'm an ear surgeon and a researcher at Johns Hopkins. I'm core faculty at the Cochlear Center for Hearing and Public Health. And my focus on the research side is thinking about and understanding hearing healthcare disparities among older adults. And I think really more importantly, what can we actually do about it?
Thanks so much. Vineet?
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me too. So my name is Vineet Raghu. I'm a research fellow at Mass General Hospital. I'm actually a computer scientist. I did my PhD at the University of Pittsburgh, where I studied machine learning methods, artificial intelligence, specifically for genomics, messenger RNA expression, and relating that to risk factors and clinical outcomes in cancer. I'm now at the Cardiovascular Imaging Research Center at Mass General, where I'm studying more machine learning, deep learning, but now trying to predict risk of future cardiovascular events and cancers for medical imaging broadly, specifically looking at chest imaging at the moment.
Thank you very much. And Nikhil, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, absolutely. Hi, I'm Nikhil Shah. I am a urologic oncologist, a cancer urologist by training, and actually a transplant surgeon, particularly kidney transplants, and currently working out of two places, Atlanta, Georgia, and Austin, Texas, and really having a great time. I'm also on faculty at Georgia Tech, in addition to the Dell Medical School. Thanks.
And Nikhil, would you mind speaking just a bit about Nephrodite as well? You're still on mute.
Sorry about that. Nephrodite is a medical device startup. It was conceived several years ago. I don't want to say exactly how much time. It's been a while. But myself and my co-founder, Hip Nguyen, we were lecturing overseas at the German Aerospace Labs, and we conceived an idea of an implantable continuous functioning dialysis device. As many people might know, dialysis is really difficult on patients when their kidneys fail. They have to often go to in-center dialysis units for treatment. It's really tough to get there. And get dialyzed, and it really hasn't replaced the way our kidneys work completely. And so we thought of an idea of a true kidney replacement mechanism outside of a transplant. The best way to get, to recover from end-stage renal disease or end-stage kidney disease is a transplant. But unfortunately, 100,000 Americans today are on the transplant list, and many of them won't get that transplant. And so we really wanted to find a way to buffer that.
Thank you for that. And I think that will feed into a question later about the innovative nature of each of your projects. So now that we've done some introductions, I'm going to turn to Vineet next to speak first. Could you tell viewers a little bit about your experience applying for the Healthy Longevity Catalyst Awards? How did you find out about the awards? And what made you decide to apply? What was the process like?
Sure. I'll start with how I found out. So I actually found out about the awards. I had attended a NAM webinar sometime before this competition started. So I signed up for the newsletter through that. So I actually found out about the award through the NAM newsletter. I think in terms of why we applied, it was actually kind of a stroke of luck. We had started this project before we found out about the award. We're a cardiovascular imaging group, so not really like longevity isn't our main focus. Obviously, helping prevent cardiovascular disease leads to longevity, but we had started a project looking at aging, and so we felt like it was a perfect fit for this sort of competition. That's why we applied. In terms of the process, I think it was one of the nicest grant applications I've ever been through. It was a very short proposal, and no budget, nothing complicated to write. So, it was just really explaining at a high level what you're trying to do and why it's a breakthrough innovation, which was great. So.
Thanks very much. Nikhil, what about you? Can you tell viewers a little bit about your experience applying, how you found out about the awards, and how you decided to apply?
Absolutely. It really wasn't by accident per se. We were introduced to the concept through someone from an incubator that we were applying to at the University of Texas, who said, you guys, you should really think about this. And at first glance, I said, well, I'm not sure it really applies to us. And the comment back to me was, well, why wouldn't it? And I said, oh, okay. So on the challenge, I had to respond. So it wasn't me being lazy. It was me sort of trying to put it off for a bit. And so when I got challenged, when I actually sat down and looked at it, I was like, no, this absolutely does apply to what we're doing. I think a lot like Vineet, I was really pleasantly surprised. In fact, I probably went back, I'm not kidding, a half a dozen times to make sure I wasn't missing anything on the application. Because for those of us, and I'm sure Carrie's the same way, the grant writing process can be pretty onerous. And so it was really, it was actually healthy for my longevity to fill out this NAM award, because it was a very pleasant process.
Thank you for that. I'm glad that it was a pleasant process on your end. And we have actually made enhancements to make it even easier in this second round, this cycle 2021. Carrie, do you have anything you'd like to add to this question about how you found out?
Sure. Sure. I think some of the same things are definitely similar. Amongst a lot of the Hopkins faculty that are working in the gerontology space, it was circulating. I had seen notices from the NIH for their kind of process and proposal. So it was something that was floating around, and I think a big key for a lot of people's success, especially early on, is just why not? Like, just throw it in. Why not? I think this by far is the lowest barrier to entry. For people who have written grant proposals for NIH or otherwise, you can very easily leverage lots of that documentation and put it into this. And I really would encourage people, just throw your hat in the ring. Why not? I definitely was not expecting to make it through, but I think, let's see what happens. So yeah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, and I think just to piggyback on something that a couple of you mentioned, I mean, we're really defining healthy longevity very broadly. We're open to ideas from virtually any discipline, and just want to know how your particular idea could foster healthy longevity. So really, we want a diverse, wide range of ideas and encourage folks from all disciplines, all sectors to apply. But glad to hear it was a easy, refreshing experience for all of you, because I know how those traditional grant applications are often. So next up, Nikhil, if you could go first, if you could please give viewers, or piggyback on what you said earlier, an overview of your idea or project, and explain particularly how it is innovative, because the innovation is a big and important piece of the Catalyst Awards.
Absolutely. The story actually starts before we sat and decided to try to put together an innovation, where Bob Hip Nguyen, my co-founder and partner, had said, he was really upset about having nearly lost a patient, a pediatric patient, a 12-year-old girl named Holly, to end-stage renal disease, and that was really moving. It was really touching. Between getting access dialysis access in her arms and complications from infections and clotting in and out of the hospital. It was really, really tough on a 12-year-old girl who had to turn into an adult overnight and deal with all those complications. And we had sat back and said, you know, the dialysis industry hasn't innovated since the inception of dialysis in the 1940s. And there has to be a way that we could truly replace the functions of the kidneys when they fail in a way that allows people to have a better quality of life, better health outcomes. And that got us thinking. And since we're both surgeons, we said there's got to be a way. You know, we obviously, if it involves surgery, it's like a big bonus for us. So we said there's got to be a way to do something. And so we conceived of an implantable device. It's also a wearable device. So it's a hybrid device. It's a implantable and a wearable that would allow people freedom from sitting in a dialysis center or sitting at home for hours at a time dialyzing. And all that lost time could be made up by improving their quality of life and their day-to-day activities.
Thank you very much for that. Carrie, would you like to answer the same question? Can you give viewers an overview of your idea or project and explain particularly how it's innovative?
Sure. So we know that hearing loss is really common, right? It's almost universal part of the aging experience. I think one of the things that has really changed in the past, 10 years or so is our understanding that hearing loss is very much part of healthy aging, in terms of just what it can potentially put you at risk for in terms of, dementia, falls, social isolation, depression, the list is very long. But the thing that doesn't track alongside that is that there are very few people relative to how common hearing loss is who actually seek care. And that we know that there's, large gaps in terms of who generally accesses hearing care in terms of, things like socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, whatnot. And the thinking about how do we bridge that divide is we very much approached it, for the past how many decades as a medical issue. But there's a lot that we can learn and take from public health approaches. So my idea and our focus within kind of the HEARS program is to think about how can we take a community health worker model of care, specifically older adult peer mentors, and apply that to delivering hearing care in the US and really more broadly, because community health workers, that alone is not a new idea. We use that in a lot of different settings to address a lot of different needs and specifically address disparities, but it hasn't been really used and applied in a hearing care setting, really in terms of really going that last mile of how do we connect people with devices. And here in the US, we're at a really unique opportunity. Over-the-counter hearing aids are coming, but that gap kind of in connecting older adults to those devices is something that really hasn't been thought about, and that's really where we see kind of our niche and our fit is really a unique period of time and bringing kind of used and developed ideas from other fields and applying it to this one.
Thanks very much for that, Carrie. And now we'll turn to Vineet. Can you tell us a little bit about your idea or project and explain how it's innovative?
Sure. Yeah, so we're focused on artificial intelligence in medical imaging, which is a very hot topic at the moment. We think what's different with our project is most people are focused on how they can identify pathologies present on the image itself, similar to what a radiologist would do clinically. I think what we want to do that's a little different is see whether we can repurpose routine medical imaging to predict future risk. And so this particular project is trying to estimate what we call a chest X-ray age, or a biological age, from a chest X-ray image, which broadly defined is like a measure of the overall health of the chest of that patient. And so what we hope to do with that is then to see whether this can replace chronological age, which is the number of years you've been alive, in risk scores, in screening guidelines to improve early detection and prevention of chronic disease, specifically cardiovascular diseases and lung cancer. So at the moment, for cardiovascular disease prevention, a statin is kind of the gold standard. Who to allocate statins to is based on how old you are, among other factors. So one idea we have is, can we replace that chronological age in that guideline with this chest X-ray age type measure? And so that's kind of an overview of what we're doing.
Thank you for that. And can you speak a little bit to the makeup of your team, Vineet, and the background of some of the members?
Yeah, sure. So it's a very interdisciplinary team. I'm obviously the computer scientist on the project. My mentors are radiologists working in cardiothoracic imaging at MGH. I have mentors also in computational imaging. We're trying to bring together all of these groups to work on a problem, which I think is really important. Oftentimes you have these silos where computer scientists are trying to work on a medical problem with no domain knowledge, and it can be really tough. It's one of the nice things in this group.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's one of the things that we're very interested in at the NAM, kind of fostering these interdisciplinary projects that probably are very important in kind of moving the needle and making these major breakthroughs in the field of healthy longevity, breaking down those silos. So thanks for speaking a bit about that. So my next question is, how did each of you decide to submit this particular project to or for a Catalyst Award? And Carrie, if you could answer that one first, I'd appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Great. So my specific kind of project that I proposed is really a reflection of where our project is at. So we've had some initial pilot work and some initial findings kind of based in Baltimore, where we've trained a group of older adult peer mentors to deliver this program. We had initial success with that, but there's a big gap, from going from kind of this one-time pilot in one location to being able to kind of put in the structure of all the different components that are needed to be able to do that with another group of older adult peer mentors. So that's really what we're trying to do, is kind of that next step of the process to start to build some of that evidence, to think of really about how do we make this sustainable? How do we answer some of those, bigger picture questions about implementation and dissemination? And that's an area that can be, tricky to get funding for and things. So that's why we kind of focus that area and really was just kind of reflective of where we are at in the process.
Great, very good. And Vineet, do you have comments on why you and your team chose this particular project for submission for Catalyst Award?
Yeah, sure. I think it's similar. I mean, this was kind of an earlier stage project. So we had just acquired large data sets from the National Cancer Institute that had chest X-ray imaging and long-term follow-up, so we could do sort of a risk prediction study. But we hadn't generated much preliminary data at the time. And so we felt that the topic was a great fit. We also felt that the stage of the project was a great fit in terms of being a new idea that wasn't really established yet. And we also thought that if we were able to get this funding, we could build a proof of concept, and that would serve as preliminary data for kind of a lot of future work. So,
right, yeah, that sounds like a great starting point and kind of what we were thinking about. And I know the team at the NAM was thinking about in developing this larger initiative that we're going to help foster these preliminary ideas that don't necessarily have data behind them yet, and help innovators advance them and hopefully take it to the next stage and kind of prepare them potentially for submitting to future stages of the competition. So very happy to hear that. What about you, Nikhil? Do you have comments you'd like to offer on how you and your co-investigator decided on this particular project for the Catalyst Award?
Yeah, actually, we have several projects that we're working on together. So picking this one was, I think, very similar to Carrie and Vineet's comments, which was right time, right phase of where we were at. We were amidst proof of concept work. We were really lean, and really, it's really been so great to have the funding, because we're going to make that transition now from proof of concept into prototype and that kind of work. So it really worked out well in terms of timing for where we were with the project and this award.
Great, thank you very much. So kind of playing off some of the topics that you've all alluded to, and we'll start with Vineet here. Could you talk a little bit about how you plan to use the prize money to advance your idea or project?
Yeah, sure. I think this is especially useful for me because I'm, still a research fellow transitioning to junior faculty. So it's really hard to get awards that fund anything other than my salary at this stage of my career. And so how I plan to use this is both to purchase equipment, computational equipment, which will be useful in running sorts of these AI models, but also to hire undergraduate medical research assistants to help with the project. And again, it's like really hard to do at my stage. So I think that was really nice with this sort of grant compared to what I'd apply for normally.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, we wanted to, as part of this, provide opportunities for more junior researchers to get their ideas off the ground. So I'm glad to hear that this has been of help. Nikhil, can you speak to how you plan specifically to use the prize money to advance your project? I know you kind of already started down this path, but anything to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can just get a little bit more granular. We needed to do a specific trial using blood on the bench. It's surprising how expensive blood for experimental purposes can be. We had thought maybe about using students and draining them of their blood, but that's probably not ethical. But we did get a couple of students from the Cockrell School of Engineering in Texas, and that through this funding, and we are amidst our bench trials now. So yeah, we're actively using it, and we're super happy about that.
Great. Yeah, well, we'll definitely be interested to hear updates once you progress a bit more in your work. And Carrie, can you speak a little bit to how you plan to use the prize money to advance the project?
Yeah. So like I was saying, in terms of kind of that next step from kind of one site, one location to thinking about another cohort of older adult peer mentors, there are those lots of details in terms of how do we, and I think for us, the focus has always been, we don't want to do anything without the potential to be able to scale it. And so, but actually getting in place things like how do we, train and supervise the team of audiologists who supervise the peer mentors in terms of, what does that need to look like in an online platform, the training modules, what does it look like, especially, within the midst of COVID and thinking about, virtual and remote training. I think there's a lot of those kind of really necessary building blocks in terms of actually building the modules, getting them online or getting them to a way that's accessible. Those are all kind of the nitty gritty things, again, that I think can be challenging to get funding for once you have kind of some initial, work and initial promise, but then there's a lot of other things that need to be put in place to turn around and then be able to say, hey, yep, that's great. We can now roll this out to a lot of different places. And we have a pathway to do that and a way to train, everybody and ensure that quality and that supervision kind of throughout the way. So those are exactly the types of things that we're excited. And I think the freedom and kind of the relatively no strings attached nature is something that is, I think it's really important for this type of work.
Thank you very much for that, all of you, for your thoughtful responses. So the next question, we're going to start off with Nikhil. To what extent do you think the Catalyst Award will help your team to secure additional funding to support this project or related projects that you're working on?
Yeah, the funding was instrumental because the data that we needed to, in terms of grant funding and other awards that are out there in terms of having enough data, and even going to other funding sources like angels, family offices, or institutional funding, it's really allowed us to get more data. So our funding opportunities have just opened up and will probably open up even more. And as a result, we will be applying not only to, I think, the subsequent award here as well, but for a lot of other opportunities. So really, again, thankful to have the funding.
Very nice to hear. Thank you very much. Next, Carrie, any comments? Can you speak to how the award will help you and your team secure additional funding potentially, or help with related projects?
Yeah. So I think because it allows us to build kind of that foundation, it allows us to not only think about kind of the next step, larger grants, from, NIH or kind of those traditional pathways, but then I think sets us up for additional avenues beyond kind of the traditional research approaches. I think, for me, the thing that I think has been exciting even just thus far is it just kind of raises the profile of kind of your team's efforts and work in terms of just some of the connections that I've already made, and then that kind of flowing to other opportunities that especially for those in academics, we may not always be thinking about. So I think that's the thing for me that's really been the most exciting is just kind of that extra, I wouldn't say maybe little boost, but a relatively big boost in terms of kind of just being not just kind of thinking kind of locally or regionally, but now thinking nationally and globally, and kind of getting your ideas out there, and all the doors that it's opened, and I look forward to it continuing to open. So
no, thank you for mentioning those things. I think part of the spirit of the Healthy Longevity Global Competition more broadly is to share all of these innovative ideas. So all of the abstracts, project summaries of the winners from round one are on our website, healthylongevitychallenge.org. And we'll continue to post all of the project summaries as new winners come on board. And we encourage everyone to visit those and find out more. Vineet, do you have anything else to add? Can you speak to how the Catalyst Award will help you or your team secure additional funding to support this project or related projects?
Yeah, sure. I actually just reiterate what both Carrie and Nikhil said. We've had exposure from industry, especially, that we didn't have prior to this, as a result of the NAM and their PR online. Also, we've been able to, allocate more time to this project to actually develop preliminary data. We actually are applying at the moment for more funding based on that preliminary data, and hope to apply for the accelerator phase as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I guess this is going, really appreciate your thoughtful answers. And I'm surprised how quickly we've moved through these questions, but everything seems kind of spot on, and so happy to hear that you all are very pleased with the competition thus far. To kind of close out here, and we'll start with Carrie first. Why do you think the field of healthy longevity is exciting? Why should other people get involved?
Yeah, that's great. I think both in terms of healthy longevity and then kind of just this competition. I think this type of kind of cross-disciplinary, work that kind of I think each of the teams is kind of doing, and then kind of that broader picture, I think is really exciting. And I think that's exactly what we need in terms of kind of cross-disciplinary, the big picture. I think, at least for me in my space of thinking about hearing care, sometimes it can get really bogged down in some of, important things, but, nitty gritty things in terms of, scope of practice and what does this mean, and where is this going in terms of our fields. But I think the possibility to do these kind of cross-cutting, like big picture, like how do we move things forward, is especially when you have influences from kind of outside your kind of narrow spaces and whatnot. I think that kind of energy that is part of the competition and part of this process, I think is exactly what we need in these spaces. And I think also really viewing for us, and I think globally, our older adults, our communities as assets, as strengths, as that this is where we can learn from and leverage and guide what we want to define as aging. So I think for all those things in terms of what the competition is about and its support, that is what makes me excited.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's what makes us excited at the NAM as well. So thank you for articulating that so nicely. Vineet, do you have anything to add in terms of why the field of healthy longevity is exciting, why other people should get involved?
Yeah, sure. I think that was an awesome answer. I think this is one of the greatest challenges facing humanity at the moment. How do we actually extend years of quality life lived instead of just life lived? And I think as an academic, what's nice about framing this as healthy longevity instead of focusing on a particular disease or a particular condition is that you kind of remember that what the goal is overall, which is to really make an impact on lives and to actually extend a healthy life. And I think for me that's useful, like when we're working on these tiny little projects, to remember what the real end goal is instead of just a publication or something. I think I'm also especially excited, as a computer scientist, I don't have much background in aging research or longevity. But I think what's so cool about this competition and the field itself is that, you can come from so many different angles, from a technological angle, sociological angle, economic angle, and all of them can have significant impact. And they can have even more impact when you're able to kind of bridge them together, which I think is what this competition is hopefully going to be able to do by the end.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Very well said. And Nikhil, do you want to share your comments around why you think healthy longevity is exciting and why other people should get involved in this work?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Despite the complexities of healthcare as they exist in the United States today, we are still very technologically advanced, and advances are going to continue coming, whether they're in the office, in the operating room, in terms of data and IoT. If it's a wearable, data is going to be transmittable. There's so many changes happening in healthcare, and people are living longer. And so to Vineet and Carrie's point, the quality of life and maximizing health outcomes on the research side to maintain quality of life is absolutely so important. It's the very genesis of our project, is trying to improve health outcomes and quality of life for people who are really suffering with end-stage renal disease and all the other conditions, whether it's the heart, lungs, the ears, and hearing, sight, whatever the issue may be. For that particular individual, as Vineet said, and Carrie, for that particular individual, it's very important. Healthy longevity to me brings that back to the patient, not about is there the right coding to pay for the procedure or their insurance coverage. It's about the patient, and that's so important. So I really think, I think Carrie mentioned this earlier, we didn't know what would happen. We thought we'd apply and see what happens. And like you do in grants, we thought this will never go anywhere. And we were just so pleasantly surprised. And I just think everyone should apply, and hopefully they'll be pleasantly surprised too.
I think that's a great note to end on. And thank you all so much for participating. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in and will watch this later. In the chat, we've included links to our application guidelines, application FAQ or Q&A, global competition website and information on these winners and all of the round one winners as well. Please remember to visit the application guidelines for the NAM Catalyst Awards. And we look forward to receiving your applications in the coming weeks. So thank you, everyone. Take care.